Hey, what's up? Silas here. I'm going to be talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers' recent trade and National Basketball Association and the things that I've learned from kind of following this team recently over the last couple of weeks and having played sports myself. So, the Cleveland Cavaliers is a team that LeBron James currently plays for. LeBron James is probably going to be considered one of the best basketball players to have ever played, if not the best, at least currently right now. I think it's pretty inarguable that he is the best basketball player playing at the moment. Statistically wise, he definitely is in the top ones, and he's probably going to play for about 2 or 3 more years at least. And there's a question about he's had some issues with moving in and out, and always when it comes around, not always, but the last couple of years when it comes around the trade deadline in the National Basketball Association, they have a deadline where by this time you have to lock in your team, and that's the team that you play the entire year with. And with LeBron James, he's been someone who's left Cleveland. Cleveland is his hometown. He grew up there, went to high school there, and came straight to the NBA from there. Was drafted by Cleveland, and then ended up going to Miami. Won a couple of championships there. Came back to Cleveland. Has won a championship with Cleveland, and he was going to be a free agent after this year. So people were wondering, is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? So they're making some different moves to do this. But just some thoughts that I have from kind of watching people talk about this, watching what's been going on with the team, not watching the games itself, but mostly sports commentary. If you've seen some of my recent videos, you see I've been talking about the people who are covering sports and seeing what I learned from how they cover sports, and maybe try to apply some of that into how I'm covering issues because it's a good format. These sportscasters go out there, people they break down the same information, they break down stats and things that people have seen, and kind of put their own spin on it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. And having my background, having played sports in high school and in college, collegiate sports, Division II football. So I have some experiences with team sports and also just competitive sports. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to talk about here is the ages. When they're talking about these players, they're talking about players who are like 30s. One of the things the Cleveland Cavaliers did is trade about 6 players. It was 6 players to 3 different teams, a 3-team trade. So the ins and outs of this, but they had one of the oldest, I think they had the oldest roster, starting roster at least, in the National Basketball Association. So they traded these people out and brought some people in, and they're talking about 30-year-olds and things like that. And it's like these are old people. These are definitely old people. Even the best people at what they do in the world, National Basketball Association has the best basketball players, professional basketball players in the world. They go and they play in the world leagues or they play in the Olympics and things like that. And with the NBA, I think this is one where the American football, I mean the American League, can easily come out and say yes, we have the world champions, because when you go out and you play in these international competitions, the Olympics and things like that, the other teams that do well also do well because now the NBA is actually full of a lot of international players. Players who are the best players from Spain don't play in the Spanish league. They come here, and you can't say it's like American football where people are like, well, there's no other teams in other countries, so how can you just say you're world champs? But I mean, that also means you're world champs. I mean, if I invent a sport right now that nobody else plays and I play it right now, then yes, I am the world champ at that sport until somebody else can play and I compete with me on that. But yeah, that's that's neither here nor there. So these basketball players, in their 30s, approaching their 30s or later than that, they are considered to be old. Now, are they old for life? They're not old for life. They're still relatively young for humans. Humans are living to their 80s now, especially when you come to the amount of money a lot of these people are going to be making, the access to resources that they have, and the medicine that they're going to have. These people, even like talk about access to medicine, something like Magic Johnson getting something, he got AIDS. Not HIV. I think you get the HIV virus, then you get AIDS. He got the HIV virus. He was HIV positive. He seems to have kicked that away. I don't know if he's completely like negative now, but whatever. He surpassed that, and that is partially due to the fact that he's Magic Johnson. He has access to certain medicine and certain therapies to kind of prevent this from happening. And he's also an amazing athlete, so I'm sure his genetics probably played some part in fighting off whatever virus and problem that he had. So coming back to this, people are living to their 80s. These people are probably going to live to their 80s if they don't just die from premature causes. But they're being told that at 30, you're old. Why? It's for the purpose of what they do. As a basketball player, they are old. As a human, they're not old. But for basketball, at that point in time, yes, you have to come off the bench. You're weak. You know, like this. Oh, man. Okay, Shannon Sharpe was. They were talking about Isaiah Thomas, who is this really short player. He's 5'9". So 5'9" is, I think, average height of a human being, but for NBA, that's ridiculously short. And Shannon Sharpe was talking about something. He's like, Isaiah Thomas needs to decide, you gonna come off the bench or you gonna come off your couch? Pretty much talking about like the way he was playing wasn't good enough, so he's either going to have to not start in the game and come off the bench and have limited time, or be cut from the team and come off the couch. It was really funny. Shannon Sharpe has some funny lines. But back to this. So you get older, you get slower, you get weaker because you're 30. You're getting to this age, or you're 5'9". You're still an amazing athlete. Isaiah Thomas can probably outplay every single one of most of the people listening to this. I don't know if there's professional athletes listening to this, but most of the people listening to this can probably be outplayed by Isaiah Thomas. Most of the people listening to this can definitely be outplayed by someone like Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose. But these people were getting older. They weren't playing as well, so they were getting shipped out. They're being told, yeah, you got to reduce your time. They're still stronger, they're still faster, they're still better at shooting the basketball than 99.9999999% of the population. But they're still old for basketball players, for the purpose that they want to have, the purpose that they want to do. So, if a team, a professional team is like, yes, we're going to find some 21-year-old a lot more desirable than you, does not necessarily mean you're a crap human being or you're a crap basketball player. It's just comparatively to that 21-year-old who has maybe 10 years in their future, the upside of signing this player to a bigger contract when the team wants to win for a longer time is a lot higher. So they'll do that. They'll focus on that. You don't see these athletes coming out and whining and saying, oh, why are you calling us old? Oh, where have all the good teams gone? Where have all the good contracts gone? As you can see where I'm going with this, it's a similar thing to when women get close to their 30s. When men, I think it's further for their 40s. But these are biological realities that we have to face as human beings. Or people beings, according to Justin Trudeau. But anyway, when you get to that point where you get closer to a certain age, if you're a female and you're looking to get into a relationship, you're looking to settle down and get married, you're looking to have kids, you have to consider your biological restrictions, your biological realities. When it comes down to that, most men, especially high quality men, when you're talking about where have all the good men gone, men that they're talking about the top, with the Pareto principle of distribution. 80% of women go for the top 20%. Majority of women end up going for the top 20% quality-wise of men. So those men have pick of the litter. They can choose. They can choose who they want to date, who they want to be with. Now, when it gets to that point, if they're sitting down and they're like, I want to start a family and have multiple children and give my resources to this, dedicate my resources to this, they're likely going to be picking people in their 20s. That's just in general, that's what they're going to be doing, because they have a longer potential window of having multiple kids. For that purpose of getting married and starting a family, it is more preferential. It's a better situation to focus on somebody in their early 20s. I think the fertility window for women, I think it's around 16 to 25 is the main one. Then it starts declining, and then it really crashes about after 35. So it gets to this point where somebody gets to that point and they're like, where have all the good men gone? But you see this in sports. It doesn't necessarily mean this woman is not a good woman. Yeah, you've put in work. Yeah, you're still an amazing person. You have these degrees. You can talk about X, Y, Z for on and on and on. You have a great family around you. You have friends around you. You have earning potential and things like this. But that is not what these people are focusing on when they say, I want to get married with somebody and start a family. You may have a lot of other features, a lot of other qualities that make you a great human being, a great person. But when it comes to being somebody who's the most desirable for starting a family, you get older to a certain age and you get old, just like someone like Dwayne Wade. He's an amazing person, but he's not somebody you're going to sign on to start a franchise. You're not going to try to build a franchise around Dwayne Wade. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame quality player, but he's old, and that happens. This is the way things work. Now, speaking of Dwayne Wade, there was some female sportscaster talking about how Gabrielle Union, I think it was one of the shows I was watching, Gabrielle Union, who is Dwayne Wade's wife, was super excited about Dwayne Wade's return to Miami because Dwayne Wade played with LeBron James down in Miami, then he left, went to Chicago, his hometown, came to Cleveland, and now he's back in Miami. And they were speaking about how there was many renovations in the house and things like this. And then on another show, there was another female caster, female opinion person. What did they? I keep forgetting the terms to actually call these people. That's not an opinionator. No, there's an actual term, but it keeps skipping my mind. Anyway, it's not that important. But she was talking about how it's important. They were talking about a different situation with this coach leaving New England, who was going to leave New England, this offensive coordinator, and then he came back, and then there were people talking about, hey, yeah, maybe he has considerations like his 4 daughters who are in school who like the area and things like that. And the female sportscaster was saying, it's not a sportscaster. I'm sorry. It's really bugging me. But the female person said, well, yeah, you have to, they were talking about this and like, you have to ask your wife in these situations. When you have the situation where somebody's being traded from a team, they're moving their entire family, these are considerations that are not there. Like Gabrielle Union is happy Dwayne Wade is coming back because they got the home there, they got their kids there, so that's where they're settled. Yeah, I know I married you, I know this is part of your job, but I also like that stability. When you're building a home, that's an important thing. So they get happy with that. But when you have a coach in this situation, he's getting a deal, he kind of backs out of the deal, and then now how many other families were involved in that? Because if you're saying, I'm going to move from one city, one state to another, you're moving the entire family. But they pointed out, yeah, you have to talk to the wife, you have to talk to the female in this situation if you started a family together. If you're very young, you don't have a wife, maybe you just have a girlfriend, you don't have kids in kind of situations, it may be easier for you to move here and there, move around in life. But once you get older to that point, I think you have those considerations. And I think that's something that people don't really consider that much when they're talking about these big trades and these people moving around. There's also a lot of issues. And I know it helps in some cases to have millions of dollars to move around with, but you also have to consider that on average, most people are in these positions are not making those millions of dollars. It's not just an easy transition. And even if you have that for your kids, it can be tough. And a few things on this point. With the whole moving thing, as I mentioned, with the moving, it does make things different. But with the kids, I mean, there's certain things, at least from my experience going around, like I said, I've said before, I was born in France and moved to Kenya, then moved to the United States of America in the East Coast, DC area. Then I went to university, college in West Virginia. Then I went to Italy. Then I moved back to Kenya for a while. Then I've been splitting time between Nairobi and the States, trying to get back into the States. And when you have that kind of life, it can be very, it's kind of a disjointed thing where I kind of look at people and I say, wow, how was it if you just lived in one place? Because you go to certain places, there's things you see, things you hear, things you smell that trigger different memories and things in you. And when you have this kind of lifestyle of moving around, that can close off certain chunks of your life, or at least not let those parts of your life that make you who you are get as embedded into you or get as etched into your mentality, into your personality. So you kind of like, you've really liked this thing, you've started developing how to adjust to this, how to make sense of this, how to understand this, and how to build yourself around this thing in your life. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And then now you go somewhere else and you have to start learning that new thing. So it's understandable, you can see it happening with the actual athletes themselves. Like you're leaving this one system and going into another system, and you can be like, wow, this kid was really good in this one system, or this athlete was really good. But then now they move to this other system, and then now they're struggling. Or an athlete might be like, yeah, this athlete is really good, but now if he moves to this other system, he could probably be better in that system. But he has a consideration where he's thinking, hey, my family's really, really good in this system. And they're playing that sport because they want to be there with their family. And they might think, hey, no, I'm actually going to leave. I'm actually going to stay here. And that's one thing I think in this situation where Cleveland might actually get to keep LeBron James. People are wondering, why is LeBron James going back there? He can move to a lot of other places. Pretty much any team in the National Basketball Association besides maybe the Golden State Warriors would actually welcome LeBron and try to find a way to get him on there. But he's deciding to stay in Cleveland for part of the reason his family's there, he grew up there, and I can understand that kind of mentality. Okay, so the last point is going to be about female sports personalities, and that's what I'm going to go with. I think sports personality is a better thing. Some of them are reporters, some of them are just giving opinion pieces, but they do both. So you get on these shows, and I think on half the shows that I'm watching, there's at least one female on there. There's one show I've seen just recently where the female actually seems to be the lead on the show, but it seems to be they at least tee off the questions. They start off the new section like, okay, this is a question, this is the issue we're talking about, and then they kick it off to the male people on the panel, the panelists and things like that. There's one where it's just her and the main guy, and they kind of go back and forth on topics. But one thing they seem to always do on these shows where the female is there, on YouTube, on the clips, they'll have the female kind of saying the whole like subscribe, watch it, watch other shows here, or like check these links, etc., etc., etc. And that's a very common thing, because it's been shown that female voices actually appeal more to all human beings, all people beings. I think part of this is probably because you gestate in a female, so you're around the female voice and the tones of it, something about the actual wave functions or whatever, and the sound is more appealing to the human being. And also the fact that I think males want to do things for females, there's some of that in there. But now I'm wondering if it's that development thing, what would happen if they studied people who were gestated in a mom that was dumb, in a mother that was dumb. And I for all you guys who are thinking like, okay, which females aren't dumb? First of all, you're a misogynist. You need to stop that. You need to go back to your man cave and your manhole and whatnot. Stop being misogynist. No, I mean dumb as in they can't speak. So in that case, if it has something to do with you having your first 9 months of existence, or however many months you want to say the person actually exists in the womb, hearing the voice of a female, then that makes the voice of a female more appealing when you're in the real world. If you want to say that's part of it, then what would happen if the mother was not able to speak? And let's say maybe they're around males most of the time. That would be an interesting thing to kind of check and see if that kind of person has more of an intuitive or leaning or preference for female voices. Now, I just thought of this. It probably has nothing to do with that. It's probably just the tone of it, because kids have a voice like that, and I think in general we just appeal to... No, but then even if we like kids' voices, maybe it's because we were kids at once and we heard other kids around us. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. I think I want to go into that separately. If anyone knows more about that kind of thing, please let me know. But back to this thing. So what kind of sector, what kind of venue, what kind of arena do you think would be a female-dominated arena? Because in this situation, I'm seeing people talking about sports. It's NBA, NFL, MLB, that's Major League Baseball, other sports that mostly males play. And then you have these female people breaking into these fields, coming on panels, doing things like that, giving a feminine point of view. And I think some of these things, like pointing out, Gabrielle Union's wife Gabrielle Union is very excited about Dwayne Wade coming back. She's on Instagram saying, yeah, the kids are this. And these kind of female points of view being put in, it's not necessarily that negative. I think when it was actual sports casting, there was one female I heard giving a sports casting in an actual Monday Night Football game that her voice just didn't seem correct, and what she was saying just didn't seem to mesh. But maybe there is a place to get this kind of other point of view, especially since a lot of the people watching these are older, and they may be watching with their wife, or they may be female themselves and getting, or they may have a family of their own, so they might not necessarily think it's a bad thing to get this other point of view on the certain sports. In some situations I've seen where there's, I think, some aspect of camaraderie that they don't necessarily get, and I think these are gender differences. These are things that women and males form bonds in different ways. I don't think they understand the warrior spirit as much, where you have a point where some athletes will be talking about that, especially the ex-athletes, and you even have the males on the panels that have never played. They often defer to the males that have played, and when they're talking about this warrior spirit, where somebody's like, yes, even if they're hurt, even if there's these kind of fights in the background, there's disagreements off the field, when they get on the field, it's a job. They understand they're there at the combative situation, they're there battling together with their teammates, so they kind of have this extra insight that I think is invaluable to the situation. But now, is that female insight also invaluable? this is one thing I've said. Sometimes something can be close to your mind, yet you need somebody else to actually take a look at it. Because, like, the back of your head, for example, is always close to your mind. Since you're born, it's there. I know some people have some piece missing. But anyway, the back of your head is always close to your mind. But most people, even somebody who's known you for probably like 5 seconds, knows what the back of your head looks like a lot better than you do. So maybe there is a part where it's like, hey, maybe it's beneficial to have a female come in with a female point of view. Instead of her just being one of the guys, let her come in and actually be female and do this. Although in some situations there also is some eye candy thrown in there. Like, you go to the comment sections of some of these things, and the female casters that are on there are just getting those kind of comments. But that is the same thing. So yeah, what field do you think happens that way, where it's a female, predominantly female field, where there's a male kind of thrown in, not necessarily as a tokenism, but to give that male point of view? And do you think it actually works in that way? Is there a positive part towards that? So yeah, that's it about the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you guys think? If you guys are fans of the sports, or just let me know what you guys think about the stuff in this video. Like, share, and subscribe. Links below to the merchandise store. Just opened a Patreon yesterday. I'm still developing the tiers of the things that are going to be there for incentives and goals and things like that. So coming up with that soon. But till then, goodbye.